What's up everybody, Grant here. Welcome back to the channel. And this will be my review of the HTC One A9. So I'm going to throw up some detailed specs on the screen. You can pause it if you want, but we'll go through some of the quick rundown here. The One A9's got a 5-inch 1080p AMOLED display. It's got the Snapdragon 617 processor with 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage with micro SD expansion. It was also the first phone to support Android's adaptable storage. So you've got adaptable storage here. You can combine your micro SD card storage with your onboard 32 gigs into one big block of storage. It's got a 4 megapixel front camera with HTC Ultra pixels. It's got a rear camera that's at 13 megapixels. The battery on this thing is a 22,150 milliamp hour battery, so pretty small by any standard. We'll get more into that in the review, but it does have Quick Charge 3.0 for some quick top-ups. There are no boom sound speakers, so this is just an earpiece. It's only got the single bottom firing mono speaker there, but it does have, when you plug into this headphone jack here, it does support 24-bit audio along with Dolby and high-res audio, so you'll get some really good audio experience when you do plug in your headphones here. It does have a fingerprint scanner in the front here, like you'll see. It's got NFC on board as well as an FM radio, so a lot of things packed into here. And I'll preface this before we get into the details by saying that I had bought this when it first launched in around November of 2015. I think it launched at about $500, and HTC had it on sale at launch price for $400, which is what I bought it at. And at that time, even in late 2015, I still thought that was not enough and much too expensive for what I was getting. But the current pricing from HTC, they got it down to $429 on sale, I think, which I think is still too much, especially here in early 2017. But when hsn.com, Home Shopping Network, had the deal for the One A9 at $150 US, plus 1 free month of Boost mobile service, and some other free goodies. Check out the unboxing if you want to see that. Also combined with the fact that HTC was rolling out Android 7.0 Nougat update to this device at $150, that was a total steal. I had to pick it up. I didn't give it a chance the first time through. I want to pick it up and see how it fares here in early 2017 before a lot of the big flagships launch here in the next month or two. So with that being said, let's kind of get into the details here. First up, we're going to go through build and design. So let's just get out of the way. When it first launched, a lot of the media was hyping this up, that it looked a lot like an iPhone. It's just an iPhone clone. And unfortunately, that got proliferated, especially through the tech community and the Android enthusiast community. And it really hurt the phone. A lot of Android purists and Android fans don't want their Android phones looking like iPhones. This is why they go to Android. They want to be different. And the media was really just playing up the looks, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. It's got that flat rectangular design like an iPhone, so the back is much more flat, when HTC usually has that rounded back like they had in the M8, M9, even the HTC 10 had a bit of a curved back. This is much more flat like you'll see here. It's just a flat rectangular design, much like the recent iPhone 7. And also the camera module, that shape there looks a lot like an iPhone camera module, even though the iPhone has it in the upper left. Still, I can see those two elements really can make this start to look like an iPhone. But let's all be honest. Apple really took HTC's all-metal unibody design. HTC was the first to really come out with that. And so a lot of this still has a lot of the original HTC design elements and some of the hallmarks of their design. It's got that rounded corners that they always have on the edges. It's got that full metal unibody construction. It's got that nice metal back with the classic HTC antenna lines here. And it's got that deeply beveled power button that HTC is becoming known for. So that, coupled with just an overall solid build and construction that HTC is also known for, it's got a lot of hallmarks and calling cards of classic HTC design. I think that flat rectangular look and that camera module help contribute to it looking more like an iPhone. But in 2017, I'm over that. If I look at it, I don't see an iPhone. What I do see is a very beautifully designed device. I think the One A9, when it launched in late 2015 and even in 2017, the design has still really held up. I like the design. I like all-metal unibody design phones. I still think this looks very classic, very nice. It's just an overall beautiful phone. Now, speaking of that deeply beveled power button, it's a small thing, but I've actually really come to appreciate here on HTC phones. It really does help to differentiate the power from the volume. Even though you generally know where it is, you can totally feel that, and it feels really nice. And it's a very minor thing, but something that I have really come to appreciate there. The buttons are fairly clicky and tactile, so if you can hear that. Maybe a little bit of shake, but nothing concerning. It's still very solid. No problems with that. As mentioned, it does have a flatter back with a lot less curve, but at 5 inches, it's not too wide, and so it doesn't really need that curve to fit nicely into the palm of my hand. There is this plastic strip at the top, if you can see. So there's that plastic insert at the top. I'm assuming it's to help with reception on the device. Fingerprint sensor, if you notice at the bottom, and this is just really nitpicking, is that it's not centered in the middle of the bottom bezel, but it does have that HTC logo to help kind of balance that out. Minor nitpick. I would have liked to have the HTC logo removed and have it centered in the middle, but that's just a minor gripe, nothing major there. As far as for the fingerprint scanner itself, it works. So you can see there. There is a minor delay when I hit it. I feel the vibration, then it lights up. So hit it, vibrate, and now it's going to light up. So it's a little bit of a delay. It's not the fastest fingerprint scanner, but it is accurate. And if I keep turning it off and on, sometimes it gets faster like that. But overall, like you can see, it turns on every time. Just a slight delay. So it's not the fastest, but it's very functional. No complaints. You got a working fingerprint scanner on a $150 phone. Nothing to complain about there. Last thing around build and design is that it is not IP certified, so it's not water or dust resistant at all. But on a mid-range phone like this, and especially one at this price point, it's not very concerning. But if you're wondering and you really like waterproofing, you're not going to get that here. So moving on to display, like we said earlier on, it's got a 5-inch 1080p AMOLED display. HTC usually has their LCD, their super LCD displays, but they went with AMOLED this time, so it's a nice 1080p AMOLED display. It doesn't really get as bright as most AMOLED displays that I've owned, especially not Samsung Super AMOLED. So outdoor visibility is fine, but it can be tough at times. And if you're going outdoors, this has to be cranked up at 100% brightness at all times. And even then, you're going to have some trouble seeing the screen in some direct sunlight. But otherwise, it's got a lot of the trademarks of typical AMOLED displays. Especially indoors, you're going to see rich, vibrant colors. You're going to see really deep reds like that, nice blues. So really rich, vibrant colors and some really deep blacks. So all the benefits of AMOLED are there, and it's going to look really beautiful, especially for a mid-range phone like this. Now, one thing I want to note is that I did have to go in here, and when I first got it, I had to go in here to display and gestures and color profile, because when I first got out of the box, I noticed it was kind of a yellowish tint, and it was a little bit too warm for my taste. And so I think it was defaulted to sRGB. So if you kind of noticed that, I'm not sure if it's really coming through on camera. But when I go back to sRGB, there's a little bit of a yellowish tint. I've noticed since I've upgraded to Nougat, it's not as yellow as it was on Marshmallow out of the box. But I had to put it onto Vivid, and even within Vivid, I had to crank it to the cooler side. It was still a little bit too warm, even on Vivid, and a little bit too yellowish for my taste. But if I just cranked it all the way up to cooler, it really took care of that yellowish tint. And now everything here, like you can see, the whites are really white, and you still got the benefits of that Super AMOLED display where the colors just pop. So just one thing to keep in mind, when you get it, if it's yellowish tint and it looks a little bit too warm for you, go into the settings and adjust the color profile, and you should be good to go. So the other thing that I like about the display is that it supports double tap to wake. So if you just go ahead and double tap, wakes up, you can double tap to go to sleep. So really helpful when you have the phone on the table, you don't want to contort your hands to turn on the power button. You can just double tap it to wake it, and double tap to sleep it if you want. It's much more useful with phones with a fingerprint on the rear, because then if you lay it flat on the table, you're going to have to pick up your phone or hit the power button. But it's still helpful here. It's a much bigger touch target than having to go down to your fingerprint sensor. So double tap to wake is always a great feature that I like on pretty much any phone. Moving on to performance and software. So as mentioned, it came running Android 6.0 Marshmallow out of the box, but it has since received the Android 7 Nougat update about maybe a week after I owned it. So it came to Boost Mobile a little bit late, but right in time for when I bought it. And so for the majority of this time, I've been running it on Android Nougat. On Marshmallow, I noticed performance was mostly snappy, but it had the occasional hiccup. And I could just feel it that it wasn't as fast as I would like it to be. And it's not really a knock on this device. It's the same with other devices that run the Snapdragon 617 for me, like the Axon 7 Mini. On any device that runs the 617, I notice a hint of lag every now and then. Overall performs fairly well, but it just doesn't quite feel as snappy. It's just a feel thing, and you just have to use it for yourself to really understand what I'm talking about. But after I updated it with Nougat, it is definitely noticeably smoother, with more fluid performance when moving around the UI. So as you can kind of see here, if I just go into the app launcher and just scroll around pretty fast, recent apps, you can flick through it, no problem. Load up Twitter here. And you flick through Twitter. It's pretty smooth here. It's still loading up things, so you'll see the occasional hiccup like you do on pretty much any phone when it loads content. But if you just scroll through it here, nice and smooth. Same thing, you want to go into YouTube, load that up. And you can see you can scroll through it. So overall, it's just pretty fast, pretty snappy. Definitely notice the speed increases, or maybe not speed, but at least the fluidity of the interface since upgrading to Nougat. And so because it does have Nougat, it has a lot of the Nougat features like multi-window. So if I want to watch YouTube, hold on the recent apps button and do something like check out my Twitter account, I could do that. So I could multitask that way. I can just swipe it away like I always do to get rid of it. It also supports bundle notifications and notification replies where the apps supported, like in SMS messaging, etc. So all the great Nougat features are present here on the One A9. The other feature that I like here is the option to hide the on-screen nav buttons. So if I go into settings and personalize, I have the ability to show button to hide in nav bar. So if I click that, it went away. When I click it, it adds this down arrow here. So if I hit that down arrow, it'll hide those on-screen nav buttons. So useful if you want to maximize screen real estate there, you can get rid of it and really maximize the full length of the display. If I want it back, I can just swipe up and the nav screen buttons come back. So that's a nice little feature there on the One A9. Another thing that I really like is themes. I'm not a really big theme guy, but HTC has some really nice themes built in. So if you notice, I'm running HTC's Pixel theme, and so it really has that kind of retro pixel gaming kind of look to it. And it's a really deep theme. So it's got the wallpapers, even its widget there in the time is pixel centric. It has a pixel theme to it. A lot of the icons, they'll support a lot of popular ones, especially their apps, of course, with phone messaging. A lot of the popular apps, YouTube, Gmail, Chrome, etc., even Twitter, they'll support this iconography. So it's really cool. So if I just go into settings, personalize, I can go into, see it's running the pixel theme. If I hit that, like I said, it's a real deep theme, so it'll have, it'll customize your home and lock screen wallpaper. It has options to also customize the HTC dot view, so if a dot view case, it'll show through there as well. The icons down to their, like I said, their weather clock there, even their sounds and fonts. So if you notice, a lot of font even has this kind of pixel type of theme to it. So it's a very deep-rooted theme. Changes a lot of things on the phone. Some manufacturers just do a few basic changes when you do themes, like maybe your wallpaper or something like that. But this will change a lot of aspects of the phone. And if you want, you can go change theme. It'll load up a bunch of different themes. It's got some classic layouts here that you can kind of look through. So if I hit those three-dot icon menu, it'll show me all the themes that they have available. So you've got the You're the Rooster theme there, and a whole bunch of really good-looking themes. And you've got some freestyle layouts here, which means you can move the icons anywhere. By default, HTC Sense has some of this contextually aware home screen. So depending on your location, it'll show the apps that you use most at that location. But they've got a lot of different themes here that you can choose from, different wallpapers, different sounds, different fonts, and you can mix and match between them. So just because you load a theme, you can use fonts or sounds from other themes. So you can really customize this out without, changing to different launchers or anything else. HTC's got a really great theming engine to help you really customize the look of your phone. So I'm not a big theme guy, like I said, but I actually think this is pretty cool, and I really like this Pixel theme. And they have a ton more themes in their store that's all free. So really cool way to customize your phone without throwing on a new launcher or downloading custom icon packs. It's all built in. And like I said, it's running HTC Sense UI, and I generally don't have an issue with Sense because Sense is very light as far as an UI skin. If you look here, the drop-down menu very much looks like stock Android. If I go into the settings, very stock Android-like. A lot of the behaviors is like stock Android. It's just their home screen. They've added a few things, like I said, contextual, where icons depending on your location. So if you're at home or if you're out somewhere else, you can even set your work location. It'll automatically change to the icons that you use most at that location. So if you use work-specific apps, they'll show up here at work. If you use more personal apps or social media apps at home, those will show up here when you're at home. The one gripe I have about Sense is the launcher. So the app launcher here, when you scroll through, it's all paginated. So you flick through, it's vertical scrolling, which I do like, but it's paginated. And so it's not just a nice little scroll. So for example, if I'm down at the bottom of my list and I start to scroll and the icon that I want to click is here and I try to reach for it, it'll jump back because it'll try to keep page by page. I don't like page by page. I like just smooth scrolling. Minor gripe, I know, but just wanted to point that out. That is my preference there. Otherwise, I really don't mind Sense. I think it's a very light skin. And I normally put Nova Launcher on a lot of my devices, but I've managed to keep Sense UI and use their launcher on it. Okay, so let's talk battery life. This 2,150 milliamp hour battery, like you would think, just doesn't cut it. It's easily the worst thing about this phone. On Marshmallow, I was barely getting 2 hours of screen on time, which for me, it would get me through my workday because it's very light usage at work. I heavily use my laptop. I'm not always on my phone. And so, but even with that, it would get me through my workday, but when I got home, I had to plug this thing in. And for me, phones that get, anywhere between 4 hours of screen on time is what's good enough to get me through a whole day, easily through work, and when I start using my phone much more heavily when I get home at night. But 2 hours barely gets me through my workday. I've got to plug in as soon as I get home. I threw the Nougat update on here, and it improved it a little bit. I started to get 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on my usage. And so that's a little bit of improvement with Nougat, but still nowhere near enough. Won't get me through a full day. I'm going to have to plug in at some point, and that's what's going to be possibly even a deal breaker for a lot of people. It'll definitely be a limiting factor, and if you get this phone, you're going to need to, if you're mobile, you're going to need a power source. If you can't get through and charge your phone during the day, you better be taking that battery pack with you because you're definitely going to need it. So I think for a lot of people, this is going to be the worst part about this phone, the biggest negative, and maybe even a deal breaker depending on your usage and if you're able to get through a charger during the day or not and how much you use your phone. But 2 hours of screen on time, 2.5 to 3 hours with Nougat is just not acceptable on a device. On a 5-inch device, you should be able to pack a little bit bigger battery than that. I would say, closer to 2,700, if not 3,000 milliamps. So 2150 is just way too small. I know maybe HTC wanted to keep this design thin, but no way should the battery be that small. It's almost, I'm not going to say unusable, but you're definitely going to have to be able to charge this in and charge it up sometime during the day. And moreover, there is no wireless charging built in. I'm not saying that it should at this price point, but if you got a small battery, wireless charging is a nice convenience, where if you got some wireless chargers around work or whatever else and you're too busy to just go around and find your cable and plug in, you can just throw it on a wireless charger. Might help with some of the convenience of having to charge this up over the course of the day, especially if it's several times. You don't want to always be plugging in, taking it off the charger. You can just throw it on a wireless charger and have it sitting there for periods of time, picking it up, putting it back on, a lot easier. So just something to point out if you really like wireless charging. And moving on to camera, this has a front-facing camera that is 4 megapixels with an f2.0 aperture, but it does have HTC Ultra Pixel technology. And all that really means is that the pixels are larger, and it helps with a smaller megapixel camera like this to provide better low light performance and overall better pictures. That's what Ultra Pixel technology is supposed to be able to do. It records at 1080p, 30 frames per second as well. Front-facing camera photos look good in good lighting like you expect. So selfies look fairly good in good lighting. It's okay in dim lighting. Ultra Pixel seems to help a bit, but not great, which is still not expected from a mid-range phone like this. About the performance you would expect from a front-facing camera on a mid-range phone is actually above average. A lot of mid-range phones I've seen for the front camera, photos don't come out very good on some of them. Video is not that great. On this one, photos look pretty good in good lighting, like I said, and dim to poor lighting. It's okay, better than average, but still nothing to write home about. Rear camera's got a 13 megapixel f/2.0 aperture. It does have optical image stabilization built in, so it does have OIS. It's got autofocus, it's got that dual tone LED flash, and it also shoots up to 1080p 30 frames per second. So no 1080p 60 frames per second and no 4K on this thing, which is probably okay for a mid-range device, and even now in 2017 at $150, not going to complain about that. The rear camera does take some nice photos. It takes some really nice photos in good light. Macro shots do come out with a really nice bokeh or that blur background effect, and they look pretty sharp, but you really need some good light for that. Low light is not too bad. Probably not as good as you would expect for a camera with OIS, but still, again, a little bit above average. It really blows out the bright lights, so if you shoot into bright lights in the dark, it's really going to blow them out. Macro shots, so up close shots, take a lot of patience and some manipulation and some angling to really get the focus where you want it to be. Good lighting does help it focus a lot faster, as you would expect. The one good thing that I'd say about this rear camera is that its HDR photos come out really, really good, and it definitely helps in low light. So in really low light, photos can come out pretty dark, even with the OIS. But if you turn on HDR, some cameras HDR can really have an adverse effect and blow out the photo too much. This HDR applies a really nice look to it and really brightens up the photo without blowing things out and really looks really good. The only downside about using HDR is that the processing takes forever, especially in low light where you want to use it. The darker the situation, the longer it's going to take to process. So when you take the snap, you're going to be waiting for a bit before the picture actually processes, but you'll come out with a really nice looking picture. So HDR is good as far as the end result is concerned, but the processing is pretty slow. I mean, it's not even a little slow, it's really slow. But overall, like I said, front camera, ultra pixels help a little bit, not a ton, but the pictures come out pretty good and fairly usable, especially for a device in this category. Rear camera with OIS is probably above average, nothing fantastic, but it can take some really nice shots. Moving on to audio and sound, so like we mentioned at the top of this, it does not have the HTC Boom Sound speakers, so there is no speaker in this earpiece. You just have this bottom firing mono speaker, which is just okay, nothing to write home about. The real experience here in the audio is on the internal audio. So if you're going to plug in a pair of headphones into this jack here, you're going to come away with a really nice audio experience. Nothing that's going to blow you away, nothing like the HTC 10 by any means, but it does have their boom sound effects. So it does have a built-in DAC DAC, a digital to analog converter, and an amplifier. So some may just have that DAC, that DAC. This has a DAC plus amp in it. I'm no expert, but basically what a DAC does is it converts your digital audio, like anything you want to stream or any of your MP3s or anything like that, into an analog signal for output through your headphone jack. And depending on the quality of that DAC, and the combination of your headphones will impact sound quality. So the better the DAC, and in this case it has an amp to amplify the sound, so a DAC plus amp and a good pair of headphones should get you a really good listening experience. And having that combination and that kind of audio quality in a phone, 24-bit audio quality with Dolby Audio and supports high-res audio, along with a built-in DAC and amp, at this price point, what you're getting at $150, that's huge value there. So when you plug in headphones into the headphone jack like this, and you go into your settings, scroll down, you'll notice you have HTC Boom Sound and with Dolby Audio there, and you can turn it on. So with it off, unplugged, it's grayed out. Once you plug it in, you have that option, and it enables automatically. And so what that basically does, it'll boost the sound of your audio. So when you're playing something with this off and you want to activate it, you'll notice it gives it a bit of a boost. It amplifies the sound a little bit. And so it does sound nicer. It's definitely louder, a little bit richer, but it's nowhere near the kind of audio sound quality that you can get out of something like an HTC 10. But it is better than your average smartphone that does not have a DAC or an amp built in or any kind of sound modification. So it definitely works. It definitely helps the sound, but it's not going to be anywhere near something like an HTC 10. And at this price point and where this device is targeted in the mid-range market, you shouldn't expect it, but you do get above average sound through your headphones. Now, as for calling and messaging, nothing to complain about here. Calls sound fine and nice and clear depending on your reception, of course. Messaging, no problem sending and receiving SMS. As you can see here, you got your micro SD card slot. Your micro SD card slot and a dedicated SIM slot, so it's not combined. They're separate there. It does not have wireless Wi-Fi calling, so if you need Wi-Fi calling, it's not available here, at least not on the Boost Mobile version of this. I'm not sure if A1 even has it in general, but it's not on mine, so just something to consider about if you really need that Wi-Fi calling. So moving on to final thoughts. This definitely wasn't anything special when it launched in late 2015, especially at that high price tag of $500, even at the discounted price of $400, and at the current price of $429 from HTC, I think it is definitely still too much for what you're getting and not worth it. But now in 2017 here, at the price of $150, if you could get it at that deal, this package with the Android 7 Nougat update, it's a total steal. At $150, you can't go wrong. You're getting exceptional value for that price point. So a quick recap about the pros and cons here. What I really like about this device is that it has the latest Android and Nougat update, which gives it a much noticeably smoother performance in basic tasks. So things like moving through the UI, using it for social media, email, web browsing, all that is noticeably smoother with the Nougat update. It's got a nice solid unibody build that HTC is known for. Love the design, love the build quality. It's got a great 1080p AMOLED display, not the brightest display, but from a visual perspective, the colors and the vividness of the colors, it's all there. It has a lot of the characteristics of the AMOLED that most people like. So it's got that beautiful 1080p AMOLED display. It's got a built-in DAC and amp for great headphone listening. And it's got a better than average camera, even in low light, with some nice HDR photos. And you're hard-pressed better to find a camera at the $150 price point, that's for sure. Now, some of the things that I don't like about this is that it's got, number one, horrible battery life. It will probably kill it and be a deal breaker for a lot of people. But if you can live through that, if you can get through a charger, if you can carry a portable charger, you're still getting a very nice device. Other things that I don't like is that it does not have boom sound speakers. So it's only got that one bottom firing mono speaker. But being a mid-range phone and not their flagship, I can kind of understand that a little bit. It's got HDR photo processing that is good, but it takes forever, so that's a negative there. It just takes way too long to process those photos. But when you do use it, like I said, they come out very nice. And the last thing is around the camera, on how it really blows out the lights pretty badly. So if you got bright lights, especially in low light situations and you're shooting into some bright lights like street lights or something like that, it's really going to blow those and flare those out, and you're not going to get a very good photo. So that's going to be it for my review of the HTC One A9. If there's anything else that you want to know, you still have any other questions, drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Other than that, as always, thanks for watching.